The children are trapped by dark skins to stay in and play in a game no one wins. The children, while still young and sweet, are all damned and programmed for future defeat.
Got the business mind of a Castellano before Gotti got him. Whoa. Took my coke to Sugar Hill and saw a lolly boxing. Rico on a block out in Harlem, I got Ducatis popping. Real when you a stand-up nigga and ain't nobody watching. Realize the vision is scary when you compare me, gotta fear me. So my mother we cursed and it got a theory, not a theory. No, could bet on your life that I got it near me, I get leery. When niggas get wilder, you see the fury, need a jury. To rule in my favor, tool in the blazer. 23 and 1 in my gums, I move with a razor. Remember we was young in the slums abusing the Sega? Hennessy and rum with the guns accusing the neighbors. You got my style. Everything that we thought important was right there. Now all I do is rehearse the pain and recite fears. God only picks one tortured soul that he might spare. So dreams that you don't chase quickly becomes a nightmare. Damn. Sickest nigga in the war with no fever. Yeah. The first casualties are the ones that be most eager. The game without me is like Romans with no Caesar. I reign like Ali, rope-a-dope with no seizures. The minute you was born, you started dying. I'm horrifying. Raised in the jungle, I slap a bear and assault a lion. Fuck a dirty cop, I'm law-defying. You law-abiding citizen. You niggas is innocent, can't ignore a giant.
The children of sin and the shame keep pairing and bearing, and who do you blame? The children of children cry out every day. They beg you for rescue, and what do you say?
The important thing is we're awake now. And hopefully
y'all awake?
for a long time to come.
Are we awake? Is y'all awake out there? Is y'all awake? A lot's been happening lately. I just needed to know that real quick before we keep going. This is the intro. My name is Perfect Timing Podcast. On the blast with your ass, simulcasting live on 3 channels. You know what I mean? Perfect Timing Podcast live on that Facebook channel live. Shout out to all my Facebook listeners. You awake? I'm just checking in with you. Is you awake? Because I'm awake right now. What's today? You know what I'm saying? We tapping in. Wake up. If you're not awake, we getting it in right now. Let somebody know. You know how to let them know. Hit the share. Hit the share, hit the like. The more likes, the more vibrations. You know what I'm saying? The more likes, the more vibrations. It's actually real. The metaverse is here. Tap in, hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe. I want to know if you're awake because we going in today. What's beef, baby? What's beef? Did you know what beef? Perfect time, and I don't think they heard you. Perfect time, I don't think they heard you. I said what's good now is that we awake, and I'm just checking in to see if we're awake. I'm checking the pulse. I'm checking the pulse of the 5.0 family. Is y'all awake? Let's go.
Hopefully for a long time to come. Forever. And hopefully
Beg you for rescue, and what do you say?
the important thing is we're awake now. And hopefully for a long time to come. Forever.
I be feeling the reapers amongst us. This is not a topic for those who seeking some comfort. This is for those who got exposed to heathens and hunters who feed off assumptions. We squeeze up the functions, so flee your circumference. We smoke weed in abundance. If money talks, then you speaking redundant. It's going down, but we sleep in them dungeons. I don't beef with the pundits. These rappers be talking in circles. You shed a tear when the officers hurt you. Never forfeit your virtues. I'm horrifying, like seeing your mother and father crying, knowing their children ain't never bother trying. Stars aligning, survive a jungle rumble and scar a lion, martyr rhyming. I get it jumping like throwing lobs to Zion. Sure, I had a couple thoughts of dying. That shit is mortifying, but us black folks are just more defiant. Scuffle with gods and went to war with giants. Guess I'm the god of war. Still I'm baby faced like the Carter 4, no scars at all. Waiting for karma to come collect. Cause if sleeping is the cousin, then drama's the son of death. Don't come correct, you get left in the darkest crevices. Dark as death is shark infested, waters get deeper. When you be talking reckless, I never cared for y'all perspectives. I just parked the Lexus, life is a movie, and I don't talk to extras. Street philosophers squeeze a Glock at you, waging wars to keep us involved and defeat the prophet. Never trust him if you can't look him in his eyes steady. I know some niggas who frequent church, but they vibe deadly. Niggas show love, but be praying on your demise heavy. And I think they despise everything about me, but what's a book compared to a library? But on the contrary, when these arms flurry, mom's worried my shooting range is beyond Curry's. I'm like a master swordsman after office. This your last precaution, pass the offering. Your hearse get shot up and crash your coffin. I know it's tragic talking, I'm a bastard orphan. Rap with caution, my mother slipped on her last abortion. That's why I'm evil-minded. I brainstorm the tears of Joshua's pain. Make sure you read the climate, a clear difference in our lifestyles. You tying a knot to lock your wife down. I'm tying the knots while she's screaming out in a nightgown, pleading out for her life now. I think you realizing what's the price now, the root of evil.
What's that boy name? What's that boy name? Say it in the chat. Perfect one time in the chat. Woo! I'm not gonna stop, man. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Perfect Timing Podcast with the blast back on their ass, man. What's that boy name in the chat, man? Let's go. I'm back, man. Back like I never left, man. We got a great topic today. What's beef? How's everybody feeling out there in YouTube land? Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you hit the subscribe. We going off. We blasting off right now. Tune in. Tap in. Perfect Timing Podcast. What's beef? Lucky that she got birth.
Speaking of my daughter, the older she gets, it's harder to keep her from the aura. It's deeper than when I told you. I think it's time that we split ways. Then I told you I
grinded just like a sick slave trying to get them bricks shaved.
Yeah, that's 2006
ways.
Back when Stacks had a two-tone boxer with big
plays, big plays.
Now we in the present. I
What?
told you your darkest hour is only 60 minutes.
Your darkest
You thought that I
hour
was
is
finished.
only
I
60
spent 20
minutes.
years been in this business. I gave you all the real.
That's because I am the realest.
It's
Let's
been a
go.
couple of years, but my whole career I've been
I told you your darkest hour is only 60 minutes. I told you your darkest hour is only 60 minutes. Perfect Timing Podcast with the blast. I'm casting live on your ass. Let's go. What's beef? Beef is when you can't go to sleep. What's beef? Beef is when you don't got nothing to eat. What's beef? Beef is when you out in the streets in a murder van, 20 inches rolling 20 deep. What's beef? Beef is when you can't go to sleep. What's beef? Beef is when you ain't had nothing to eat. What's beef? Beef is when you out here in the streets in the murder van on 20 inches riding 20 deep. What's beef? Shout out to everybody tuning in, man. Shout out to everybody tuning in, man. I think I need to have this up higher. I think I need to have this up higher. I like that. How do I tighten it? I want to have this up higher like this, but all right, y'all. Today's topic is what's beef. That's a lot that's been going on right now. And I think we have been going through a growth process. A lot of us in this space have been talking about a rite of passage for black men. And specifically the American Negro, you can say FBA. Ever since Kanye said what he said, I'm not even comfortable with saying black. I'm not comfortable with saying black. I'm not cool with that terminology because I'm not black. My wife is not white. You know, I'm not a crayon, you know, she's Sicilian. And when you destroy blackness, you destroy whiteness, and white people have to become German or Swedish, and blacks, you have to release the lie. You have to release the truth of our indigenous ancestry and who our king is. Remember what Perfect Thomas said. It's a lot of people teaching. It's a lot of people waking up right now. It's a lot going on. Remember what I said, starting back from Kyrie, from Kanye. I said, who is our king? Every nationality of people has a land, right? When you understand what the Moors talk about in maritime law, what you need to understand is that every nationality of people has a land and a king, a language, and a religion, right? Chinese people have their own land. Mexican people have their own land. Japanese people, and they had their own respective leadership, which was royalty, which was a king. And then when you would interact with other countries, you would have royalty, which is a king. The king of this particular country would interact with another king, and everyone from that country, just like when you got Wakanda Forever coming out tomorrow, Black Panther Part 2 coming out tomorrow. The thing that we love about Black Panther is because it links us to royalty. What people love about being white and being English and European is that it links them, the Queen of England links them to royalty, something greater, like this is our bloodline. When you speak about us and we don't have and when you talk about us as simply being captives or the products of there is no linking us to a landmass. There is no linking us to royalty, right? Because if you understand who you are, like I'm from this place, if I'm from Ethiopia or if I'm from Nigeria, then I have a lineage there, right? I have a lineage of royalty. There's a leader of this country, and who is my king? And I believe with a lot of the violence and the way we treat each other, we don't have this aspect of what is king and what is royal, and the royal sense of who we are, right? How they say the royal we, huh? So a lot's been going on here lately. A lot's been going on here lately. So I've been inspired to go live. I'm gonna go live again Friday. Tomorrow I got a dental appointment. I'm very excited about moving forward in that journey. Because I had apprehension about starting over again. I had so much dental work done in the last 2 years, but I got over my fears, and so I got another dental appointment tomorrow. So I'm proud of myself with that. So I'm going live Friday, but I had to go live. Like the spirit had been weighing heavy on me. I spoke to my brother, I spoke to my father, and we just been having a lot of conversations off screen. So I wanted to speak to my flock. I wanted to speak to my audience, but I haven't been moved. Like I have a scenario in my mind about the takeoff situation, but I haven't really been moved to do content about takeoff. And because I have a 20-year-old son, so I've been praying a lot for my son. So I've been wanting to speak to black men. I've been wanting to speak to my audience. I've been wanting to speak to the people who love black men. Shout out to all the people who love black men. Shout out to everybody who love black men and love black people who watch and support the channel, man. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to call it, FBA, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying? Indigenous, Aboriginal. Shout out to everybody who support and love us through this time, because I'm telling you, it's been a very difficult time for those individuals who identify as that, right? As you watch what's happening to Kyrie, what's happening lately, recently, is that individuals who even, same thing happened with Kanye, Deshaun Watson, it comes to a point where even if you agree or disagree with the actions of this person, the punishment doesn't fit the crime, and it comes to where everybody is looking to see what is the goal of what's happening now. Because even the Jewish sports person said we should turn the page. And so everybody's now looking to see what actually is the message now, because there is a message being communicated to black men. There's a message via this Kyrie incident. There was a message with Kanye, we missed it. There was a message with Deshaun Watson, we missed it. But there's definitely a message here. So today's topic is what's beef? What's beef, y'all? So, Perfect Timing Podcast, I couldn't just come at it I couldn't just come directly at it, right? Because you think, oh, what's beef? We're going to talk about altercations between black men, but what black men don't like black men. But I do have some beef, right? And today I have some beef with beef, and I had some beef with the YouTube sector that I come from. See, I said some things. I said the black manosphere is dead. And ever since I said the black manosphere is dead, ever since I said who is our king, this is why I know God is moving me to go live, because I see content creators doing different content. I seen Green Gorilla now more focused on, and I don't really watch Green Gorilla, but ever since I said the black manosphere is dead, I've gotten phone calls, and then I see things coming up in my algorithm, and I see Green Gorilla talking about the failures of the black manosphere. I wasn't trying to poo-poo the black manosphere. I was stating the obvious about the detriment and the lack of progressiveness in the black manosphere. Then I hear from Green Gorilla. But I really wanted to celebrate O'Shea and Angry Man. I didn't want to put down the black manosphere. I didn't want to put down content creators, even though some of them deserve to be put down. But I really wanted to celebrate Angry Man and O'Shea and really point at Angry Man and O'Shea and point at the accomplishments and their growth, the matriculation to the men that they've become, because they started out as very young men on this platform and they've grown. O'Shea put in his 10,000 hours, and I said now O'Shea is now a Hollywood level producer, and he's chosen, and one of the evidence that I put forth that the black manosphere is dead, I'm going to put forth more evidence today, is that O'Shea, once he reached this level of expertise, did not choose to use his level of expertise on saving black men. Instead, he used it to save himself. The same thing with Angry Man. Angry Man has grown, matriculated into a great king, and he hasn't used his expertise to save black men. Instead, he's using it to save himself and to provide that to individuals who want to do the same thing. So when I said that the black manosphere is dead, it was an observation with the lack of progressiveness, right? The space that exists is more of a beef sector. That's why I say what's beef. The space that exists is a contentious crab in the barrel environment that does not promote healthy competition, because I could respect healthy competition in the way of growth, to grow the individual content creators, to grow the actual psyche and the mentality of individuals who participate in the space. But instead, we have the contrary. We have this crab in the barrel, lack of regressive type of culture that exists here on YouTube amongst these individuals. I said we have to expose the cancer, right? Beef, what's beef? I said we have to expose the cancer. Then it really just Pearly, an individual still, because my channel is not promoted by these cancerous, incestuous individuals who make the content, right? So still people are making ignorant comments about Just Pearly, but Just Pearly is what exposed the ignorance and the regression in this space to cancer, right? And now Green Gorilla is talking about it. A lot of people talking about it. And my brother asked me not to go in. I said, I'm not really going to go in about it, but I'm moved to talk about it today because my son is 20 and we need to define what's beef. So I'm thinking about how can I approach this subject about what's wrong with this space and the lack of progression in this space. So I said, what's beef? What could I talk about that should be talked about? Because a lot of shit is being talked about, but what could I talk about that should be talked about? Well, my birthday is coming up. And Mama Shirley birthday is coming up, and Mama Shirley passed away a year ago, so her anniversary is coming up. And Mama Shirley taught to give what you give what you like to get. You know what I'm saying? So recently I did a colon screening, right? So and I had apprehension about that because of my AIDS chats with Chadwick Boseman. When we talked about Black Panther, that's what really was like, oh, I got to do my colon screening. I saw another prominent Black content creator talking about colon screening. And you got the Cancer Awareness Month where the NFL wears pink. I'm going to say right here today, I'm never watching the NBA again. Blacks stopped watching the NFL several years ago. We stopped, and this can be proven. I'm not going to go to the statistics. Let the people who dislike perfect timing and want to debunk me go to the statistics. But the statistics have proven overall Americans have stopped watching professional sports. But specifically, shout out to the Bay Area, man, that Bay Water and that Pacific, man. Black men have stopped watching the NFL, which is why Jay-Z was brought in to help Roger Goodell, which is why the class action lawsuit that you don't hear about anymore about the black coaches and the Brady, which I'll tell my brother, the street doctor, is so important because black men stop watching the NFL. And if you realize Clubhouse, if you understand Instagram and Snoop Dogg being the first celebrity and how, and Soulja Boy being the first on YouTube, and how black culture and the guys that we are push and move everything, why it's so important that we not only watch NFL, but NFL is still a religion to black men. But it's not anymore. The same is true with the NBA. I never will watch the NBA again. NBA is no longer on my television. Any apps I had related to the NBA, anything that was related to, I'm not wearing Nike shoes anymore. I'm not wearing basketball shoes. Already, y'all know, a lot of black men's son weren't playing NFL, wasn't going to play football. And let me say this right now to let you know that black men know how to compartmentalize, and I'm not emotional. It doesn't mean that I don't love basketball or my son and daughter that we just were playing basketball in the backyard just yesterday. I was playing basketball with my son and my daughter saw us playing basketball. She got excited. I was so excited to teach my daughter how to play basketball. The hoop goes up and down. I brought the hoop down for my daughter and she got the ball and we going crazy playing basketball. But NBA, WNBA is no go in my house for sure. So we not doing no NBA, we not doing no basketball, we not doing none of that over here. You know what I'm saying? So no NBA, no professional sports. You know what I'm saying? Cube let me down with that big three, but you know, so today that I just wanted to say that as we move forward, man, this is what this, and I believe they see. When they talk about the 1 trillion in spending and Kanye West can't be canceled if black people continue to support Kanye West, we got to understand what that means. So we are perfect timing 5.0. The NBA no longer has my support. As we get into what's beef, now we talking about what's beef. The NBA no longer has my support. The NBA no longer can have my support. Now we really talking. The NFL lost the support of black men, which is why it's such a controversial topic when Jay-Z came in, when they lost the Super Bowl, when artists said they wouldn't do the Super Bowl, then Jay-Z said he would do the Super Bowl. Why was that a conversation? How did Jay-Z know how to capture? This is what business titans do. They understand inertia. They understand the movement of the market, but the market not necessarily stocks and bonds, but actually people and the energy and the culture, right? And that's what he does as an artist, as a rapper. Oh, okay, we on the down south shit. Let me make a big pimpin'. Jay-Z don't know about big pimpin', but what that do is, like I was talking to with my brother in the back chat, is when Jay-Z makes that song, Jay-Z is curating the audience versus the audience dictating what to Jay-Z what to make, right? Jay-Z is looking at as a titan, as an artist, as a businessman on how do I capitalize off her energy and inertia. This is what I'm doing today with the What's Beef question and the Perfectly Said podcast. How do I capitalize off the inertia of all the content creators, off of the death culture, right? Off of the sacrifice. If people are saying it's not a ritual. It is. We've made it into a ritual. How have we made it into a ritual, Perfect? By our reactions to the death. Nipsey Hussle, by what we do in this new social media time when someone is murdered by a gun. Do you understand? I talked about the ripple effect of when a child, this is a child now, 28 years old, is murdered by a gunshot, not cancer, not a heart attack. The ripple effect, and then our response to that murder has what is the complete ritual. It's not the sacrifice, and the ritual is not necessarily that these young men had understanding of the ramifications of downstream effects and that they were taking part in the sacrifice, because that's just one piece of the sacrifice ritual, because it's a 2-part word. People say sacrifice, people say no, it's the same word. This is our lack of comprehension, our lack of understanding. It's a sacrifice ritual, and we participate. It does not become that until we do the things we do after the death and the murder. That's what makes it a sacrifice ritual. You participate, blogger. Academics, you participate. Joe Budden, you participate. You participate in the sacrifice ritual with your blogging, with your speculations. This is the one thing that we know about Takeoff. He is no longer with us. He was killed. He was murdered by another black man. And that's all that matters. Let me break this down to you. For all of the bloggers who will make content for the next 2 weeks, who will make money for the next 2 weeks, there's only two things that we know, and there are two things that matter to people who are not police officers, lawyers, and detectives, is that Takeoff is no longer with us and that he was dead and unalive by a gunshot. That's all we know. That's all we know, and that's all that matters. Because I tell you right now, because from losing my cousin, he was shot once in the heart and he was gone. That killed our family. That killed my auntie. And that was enough. I'm going to tell you right now, the detective, the speculation, it doesn't help Takeoff Mama. It don't help Quavo. It doesn't matter to anyone in that house dealing with the loss. I'm going to tell you that right now, family. If you never dealt with a gunshot, if you never deal with burying someone, a loved one, I'm gonna tell you right now, all that matters is that he gone, y'all. All that matters is that he gone. So let's what's beef? All that matter, the two things we cannot speculate about is that Takeoff is gone and that he was shot. Everything else is speculation. Even the dice game, everything is speculation. How and why they were there, none of us know because we weren't there. We don't know what happened. All we know is that Takeoff mom lost a son and that Quavo lost a nephew. That's all we know, and that's all that matters to that family. If you're not a police officer, if you're not a detective, if you're not a lawyer, it doesn't matter. Nothing you say matters. All you doing is participating in the sacrifice ritual. What's beef, ladies and gentlemen? What's beef? Shout out to the street doctor just popped in. What's beef, ladies and gentlemen? That's the question today. Those facts will not change. They did Young Dolph for months. People became YouTube, and now they look like fools trying to do Takeoff. They did Young Dolph for 6 weeks. They still talking about the god darn cookies. They still talking about that fat whore in the cookie shop. Months later, that ain't got nothing to do with Young Dolph. They still talking about that fat whore in the cookie shop. Months later, the only thing that matters to Young Dolph's wife and Young Dolph's children is that she doesn't have her husband and they don't have her father. That's all that matters. Everything else, that's up to the lawyers. That's up to the detectives. As a people now, as a people, as a hip hop community, as a FBA, ADOS, Black American Indigenous Negro community, what's beef? What's the healing? Why is this happening to us? The speculation over Yellow Hoodie is not healing. It's us loving the trauma. I said to you that, Mama Shirley, I said to you that, why would the wise man build his house on the sand? When on the sand there is no foundation. The wise man built his house on the rock. The foolish man built his house on the sand. He don't have no wisdom. His house washed away. See, what I learned about Mama Shirley is that Mama Shirley and those individuals addicted to trauma and the trauma process and the sacrifice ritual build on the sand on purpose. And they build on the sand because they love this part. They love the destruction. They love to wallow in the misery. They love all the grief, the gifts that comes from the grief, and the power. This is a very low frequency, very dark energy. This is a very low frequency and a very dark energy when we love talking about death and the death culture. So we continually build on the sand. We go to dice games when we got money. All that is a lack of foundation. The wise man builds his house on the rock. I don't know if they ever heard Eka Mouse. I don't know if the Migos, even though they have beautiful long locks, I don't know if they ever heard Eka Mouse and study Rastafarianism, because they would have learned these lessons about the wise man builds his house on a rock and having a solid foundation. Shout out to Alonzo Hall, the financial all-star, and building a financial rock. Made me think about Prudential and the commercials that I saw as a child. The foolish man builds his house on the sand. If you build your house on the sand, eventually the tide will come in and wash away your house. What I learned about my mother is that she would purposely build on the sand. She waited and lured the destruction of the wave, the crashing of the sound. It scared me as a child, but my mama anticipated it because she knew destruction was coming, and she benefited from the energy and the grief of the destruction. It's a very low frequency, but it's power. It's a very dark energy, but it's still energy. It's a very dark power, but it's still powerful. When you see Jay Prince Jr. with the mask on his face, with the paint on his face, you would think someone who was a gangster and into all these things wouldn't wear face makeup. But then you start to think about this dark power, this dark energy involved in all of us spending so much time in the depth and not that same investment. When I talk to you about investments, about deposits and withdrawals, now we want to withdraw. What are you withdrawing from if takeoff is not here? Woo! Thank you, God, man. Thank you, God, for all your blessings and your power, man. God be working. He told me get on the microphone and look what God is doing. What are we withdrawing from takeoff if takeoff is not here? As I talk to you about beef, as I talk to you about this dark energy, as I talk to you about this low frequency power that we are addicted to, if we are still talking about takeoff, perfectly saying in my analogy, in my perfect perspective, in my perfectly said podcast, what are we withdrawing? I said to you, the black manosphere is a zombie, a dead body walking around. We have a zombie culture. If takeoff is no longer here, if young Dolph is no longer here, what are we withdrawing? We are withdrawing from the dead. The book of the dead, the day of the dead. He died on Halloween. Is anybody listening? Is this microphone on? Do I gotta throw the microphone? Do I gotta throw a microphone? Do I gotta throw the microphone? It's a sacrifice ritual because you participate in it. It's not a sacrifice ritual because those young men were practicing Vodun and they understood that they were part of a ritual and they were part of an awakening, and that this would be a separation of the chaff and the wheat. This will separate. Remember, I preached to you about God separating the weeds from the wheat and how haters came in to God's servant, loyal servant in the middle of the night, came into his fields and sowed weeds into his fields. I'm still talking about takeoff. I'm still talking about beef. I said to you that the Bible told a parable of player haters coming into God's children's field and sowing weeds into the field. And the next morning, the servants came to God's obedient son and said, Lord, during the night, player haters came into the field and sowed weeds. And now weeds have got into the wheat. We need guns. We need knives. Why? We're going to go kill them player haters who sold that wheat into your field, master. He said, no. He said, so we going to pull the weeds? He said, no. He said, let the weeds grow. And I was reading and I didn't understand because it sounded like my grandmother. In the Bible, the parable said, let the weeds grow. He said, because right now, think about takeoff, think about the Migos. Right now, if you were to go pull all the weeds, you would most definitely pull some of the wheat because it's too young to tell the difference between the weeds and the wheat. I'm still talking about takeoff. I'm still talking about us. He said, don't pull the weeds. Takeoff mama grieving right now. He said, don't pull the weeds. Let them grow. And when they grow, you will be able to see the difference between the weeds and the wheat. And then we could separate the weeds from the wheat. And then you can bind up the wheat and burn it. I said you could bind up the weeds and burn it, and we can harvest the wheat, because the wheat that God has gave me the ability to grow feeds the entire valley. See, all this wheat is not mine. I make bread for the valley, and even those who can't afford bread eat bread. That's why I'm blessed. And if I get upset, emotional, and I start ripping out the weeds before I know the difference between the weeds and the wheat, then no one will have bread. What's beef? Then no one will have bread. So I was doing my research, and y'all got me for a few more minutes. I don't feel loved. I don't feel appreciated on YouTube. It's not enough people watching me. It's not enough people subscribe to me. So y'all got me for a few more minutes. And if I was you, I'd be praying. Every time I come on, you should pray and say, thank God, Perfect is healthy and alive and filled with the Spirit of God to deliver the message that God asked them to give. You should be praying for the person on the microphone. I used to pray. I used to pray for the people in the audience. I used to pray. You should pray for me every time I touch this microphone. You should share this show. You should be taking notes. And to the suckers, may the sucker repellent sting your nostrils for eternity. May the stench of the realness be so potent that even your wife smells my nuts. Today, the topic is what's beef. And I wanted to go deep on this Black manosphere, progressive, lack of forward thinking and understanding of the power. The Black manosphere is addicted to the dark power. That's why you got Danica and all these Black women who resonate in a low frequency. You could tell by her tone. All of the women, there should be no women in the Black manosphere. There should be no women in here at all. They're low frequency, low energy, dark earth dwellers. So I'm like, how can I highlight this? What should we be talking about? So I recently did my colon cancer screening, and Black men I got a video I'm gonna play about Black men and colon cancer and heart disease. And this is the reason why I actually chose the topic, what's beef. Let me show a video. And I want to ask you guys what you think. Because God be praying. Shout out to Truth, as I know it. Everybody subscribe to that brother. Great channel. He doing some great things over there. He been saying the same things I've been saying. So I recently did my colonoscopy screening, and I was thinking about, well, as I'm doing my content on YouTube, I'm seeing a lot of videos on steak. I'm seeing, like, I stopped eating meat like several years ago. I stopped eating meat. I stopped eating red meat first because I worked at Kaiser for 15 years. I'm Epic certified. I trained doctors and nurses how to use Epic. I've been to Wisconsin like 16 times. Before that, I worked in the biotech before I went into medical records, and it's not really truly medical records. It's more like it's more like how when you heard in the pandemic, you heard about telemedicine and things like that. So it's more telemedicine for you who are not familiar with the EMR and Epic and things like that. So I've been in telemedicine for over 15 years, and I worked intimately in the GI I worked in interventional radiology, right, which encompasses GI, cardiology, and so I've actually I designed the workflow and template for the nurses inside of colonoscopies, and I've actually been inside of over 100 colonoscopies where because I had to shadow the nurse. It was such a thing because the nurse handles the sedation during the colonoscopy, but she also needed the chart. So there was an issue with actually getting the computer, which we called a cow at that time, which we can no longer call a cow because it's on a cart. It was a physical hurdle just getting the computer in the room. The surgeon didn't want the computer in the room, but the computer had to be in the room. This is the power of medicine and money. So the computer had to be in the room. I had to be in the room with the nurse because the nurse had to chart the sedation via the MAR, the medical administration record, where you document, where you infuse anything into a human being. And she had to be able to document in the MAR and in the progress notes and maintain the sedation during the procedure. So I was in a lot more colonoscopies than I ever wanted to be in. So I was overweight. I was like 400 pounds. I stopped eating meat for a few years. I lost 100 pounds, and then I became a pescatarian, and I only ate meat for a long time. You know, and now I'm eating turkey and chicken. I should stop eating turkey and chicken, but I've been fucking up some chicken lately. But so when I did my colonoscopy screening, and lately I'm like, I've been seeing all of these videos about steak on YouTube. And I'm like, man, they make the steak look so good. And I'm like, now I know like sometimes I feel like I'm living in a comic book, right? Because I'm like, okay, Dr. Savy, I know about red meat takes 30 days, you know, it sits on your colon, 7 days to digest. All these facts we know about red meat, how red meat increases, you know, heart disease, colon cancer, Chadwick Boseman, all of these things. But when I on YouTube, for some reason, this video right here has 11 million views, and there's millions of videos like this. And it's like I make shorts now, right? A lot of my frustration comes from the fact that I couldn't grow my channel doing the work that I thought God wanted me to do. I did the Perfect Man Show for a year, the Journey to Apothos, and it didn't get the reception that I wanted. So now I'm able to do shorts. The channel is growing. And as I'm doing the shorts, I see popular channels that do popular shorts. So one of the popular vehicles is food, right? Eating, tasting, cooking food, right? On TikTok and YouTube. One of the most popular foods is steak. Steak, and specifically Wagyu. So today, as we get to the actual topic with only not much time left, what's beef? Perfect Timing would like to talk to you about Black men, heart disease, which we are the number one people to die, and colon cancer, which we the most 20% more likely to get colon cancer, 40% more likely to die from colon cancer. And it's not because of what you think. Everybody, see, the thing with Takeoff and Kyrie and Kanye is because of how Black is positioned, juxtaposed against whiteness. Shout out to Nameless, the protagonist. Black is akin to ignorance, low frequency, and negativity, right? So anything that we do is seen as ignorant, right? So it's always that he killed them because Black men are violent or ignorant, or you 26 million, you stupid, or you got colon cancer because you didn't go to the doctor, or you got colon cancer because you're a bad diet, or you dying from heart disease because you eat bacon. Right? When the truth is, with my research that I found today, and it's true for me and a lot of Black men, because I worked in healthcare for almost 20 years, is that you know what the biggest factor in Black man's health with heart disease and colon cancer is? A strong, healthy relationship with your physician. You know what I speak to my wife, who's in the chat right now, Mrs. Perfect Timing, about a lot, is developing healthy relationships with her OBGYN and her primary care physician. Because what happens with black women in healthcare is that, and with black men, is that we don't have these bonds with our health physicians, and they don't have relationships with us to make sure that we are on timely screening. And women are increasing. The rate of women is increasing in colon cancer. It's not popularized now, but I don't think black women and women overall should wait to be screened, because it's about the diet and the lifestyle in Western America and why colon cancer and heart disease is creeping up. So isn't it funny that with Chadwick Boseman, and this is the thing I want you guys to understand as I play these videos, that the colon cancer, when I was working in the GI department, you were screening at 50 and above. After Chadwick Boseman, experts and doctors at the Mayo Clinic have changed. This is huge. If you work in the medical industry, of any educators or science, anybody that works in these fields that understand curriculums and how things come out of the AP and how things are changed in Chicago and everything, for them to change protocol like the COVID protocol, right? And I talked to my wife about remdesivir and how the ventilators were, that was part of a protocol. The protocol has changed with colon cancer. They're now testing younger at 45 and 40. This is huge. There's a 10-year difference. This is not easily done. This was not a big, and people might think it's changing to save black men. It's not changing to save black men, but black men and black people who are affected the most can benefit from these protocol changes. What's beef? Let's take a look at this video. I hope y'all paying attention to what I'm saying, because a lot of this is pretty high line, high profile when you talk about medical protocols. And I don't know if you really understood what was happening during the pandemic and why they were running out of ventilators and why everybody was doing the same thing. It's called a protocol. Once a protocol is written at a very high level by someone like Fauci, you have different levels of doctors. It's like you have different levels of minister. You have a minister and you got the bishop. Like certain bishops will put out edicts and then the minister have to administer that thing. So doctors will put out a protocol and lower level doctors in hospital will have to administer that protocol. So it was that you could go to your doctor as a black man and say, hey, I want a colonoscopy. And he would say no, because it costs money and it has to go through your insurance. And they would say, well, we're not doing that. The protocol says we don't start testing until 50. That protocol has changed. That's huge. Now, at the same time that they've lowered the protocol by 10 years and they've acknowledged that colon cancer and heart disease has increased for Gen X, we're Gen X. Everybody watching right now. We're Gen X. As they're saying that the risk factors are increasing and that more people in our generation are catching colon cancer younger, which is why they changed the protocol. You got more steak videos. And then you have this increase of what they call Wagyu. Let's take a look at this video.
Well done. Let's talk about the 6 ways to cook a steak. 6 steaks sous vide for accuracy. Starting with well done. Best reserved for tough, low and slow cuts. Medium well. A good introduction to the world of pink steaks. And medium. Rosy pink, ideal for fatty and coarse cuts like skirt or hanger. Medium rare, balance of juiciness and tenderness, most popular for a reason. Rare, nearly raw with no fat rendering, best for lean cuts like filet. And blue rare, excellent choice if you're a vampire.
What was he pouring out of the meat? Did you see what was being poured out of the meat? All of those oils and carcinogenics are going in your body when you eat, and that's what's clogging your arteries when you eat this type of diet. So what I found today, as I did more of my research, I was extremely surprised on the propaganda on the internet, because this is a great way for us to explain what took place in the pandemic and how, or in the 2018 election with Hillary Clinton, and how they could search engine optimize certain things on the internet. So what we know and learn is being curated by the individuals who run Google, DuckDuckGo, and all these search engines. Because as I did my research today, overnight, and I want you guys to go do this. We got Truth As I Know It. We got some very intelligent, intellectual people in the chat today. Overnight, what I noticed is that in the past 5 to 10 years, everything on the internet has become pro red meat. Now you can see the same thing happening as Beyond Meat. Hey, what's up to my brother KC and Red in the building? As veganism increased and all these vegan restaurants popped up, all these vegan alternatives popped up, then if you watch that show on Netflix about how the avocado was popularized and the lies they told about avocado, how they hired lawyers, how they hired media teams to make the avocado more marketable, right? Then you see what's happening with red meat steak. And then this is what I suspect. I couldn't find the article saying it, but I was like, why has Wagyu become popularized? Right? Wagyu, in my research, I found an article that said, let me go to it right now. I found an article that said you should never eat Wagyu, right? And this is basically what I was getting at. The article said you should never eat Wagyu. Now, why did the article say you should never eat Wagyu? Well, the article said there was 3 reasons why you should never eat Wagyu. Check this out, y'all. This is from WagyuSommelier.com. And this is the source, because you know we got to have our sources. I just seen my sister come into the building. I'm so happy to see you. Shout out to Deborah Carr in the building. Feel good to see my 5.0 family in the building, because as we talk about these topics, you know, you want to give thanks to individuals. Like I said, when you see me, you should pray and thank God that I'm healthy and I'm here doing God's work. So when I see you guys, even if I'm not saying it, I love you and I pray and I thank that I see you guys are healthy and you're here getting this word, man. Ken, Tracy, Deborah, everybody, truth came through. So I thank you guys for coming through, man, for real. So what I found in this article, as I did my research on heart disease and colon cancer, and about how, like, I it was very difficult for me in today 2022 to find an article being honest about the effects of red meat and how the correlation between red meat and heart disease and colon cancer. If you actually go to YouTube now and Google, you will find more videos, thanks to Joe Rogan, about saying that all of the research that you heard growing up and all the people who died, that was bullshit. Everything you find now is scientists out there debunking. It's like, do people remember the avocado? Does anyone remember the avocado? To any proponents of beef and Wagyu, that's all I would say to you. Does anyone remember the avocado? Because it's obvious to me what's happened with red meat in the last few years, and Wagyu is the same thing they did with the avocado, that they've obviously taken and they've hired YouTube content creators, they've hired doctors and media firms to create this new mystique around red meat and steak. You got Salt Bae. Look at Salt Bae. He's an actual character. He's akin to Charleston White. I am waking you up today. God put this on my mind. A lot of content creators are making some great content right now. So I felt pressured to do some content, and God gave me this message because there's so many things you could extrapolate from this topic. You have Salt Bae. You have some of the most popular content creators eating the tomahawk steak. There is a new fascination, a new romanticism going on with red meat. And now that I've said it, you will hear other content creators say it, because that's why God created me and put me here. But I found it very odd as I'm doing my colon screening and I'm researching the fact that colon cancer has increased for Gen X and millennials, right? And that doctors want us to be tested annually, even more regularly, right? Because of what's happening. And then I see the popularization of steak and Wagyu. Now, this article says you should never eat A5 Wagyu. And it says why. It's only 3. Let's go through the 3 real quick of why you should never eat A5 Wagyu. And it's very telling. Because we live in this very, everybody want to wear Gucci. Everybody want to wear $1,500 shoes. Everybody want to go to the Salt Bae restaurant, and they think I got to eat steak. I got to eat Wagyu. The steak is a part of the opulence. That's what people are saying. We in the end of days. We in the end times. Everybody wants to live this opulent, over luxurious life, and nobody wants to live in their means. We can't maintain that, y'all, for a long time. So everybody wants to wear Gucci, right? Everybody wants to wear $1,500 shoes. What goes along with that? The steak. Steakhouses. Everyone wants to go to Roof Chris. What do you hear about on every song? It's a romanticization with this red meat. The tomahawk steak, Salt Bae with his mustache and the glasses and the special way he sprinkles the salt. They putting gold all over it. Let's look at this shit. So, number one, many cuts on A-fat Wagyu are too fat to be served as steak. I would say that's the end all right there. I don't think you got to read too much more, because I don't think individuals understand that what you're eating is not actually steak. And I'm going to go one step further to another article that I pulled up. Not only is it not steak because it's over 50% consistency of fat, you're eating basically beef fat, which is why people don't eat dessert or why people's stomach hurt after eating it. And then what they promote on these YouTube shorts is that, oh, look at the marbling. The more marbling, the better. It's not marbling, it's fat. It's so much fat, it's actually more fat than red meat. And the protein that Joe Rogan speaks about, you're not getting that in Wagyu. You're not getting that in these high fat content red meats. Did anybody tell y'all that? It's not even steak. You're eating fat. And that is clogging your arteries, which is why we have a higher rate between Gen X and millennials of heart. I'm just going to keep going, man. Number two, the grade has little to do with the taste. So A5 is the most expensive, right, and the highest fat content, but it doesn't matter what this as it relates to the taste, because the taste doesn't come from the fat, it comes from the red meat, right? And number three is you will be pouring money down the drain, right? Because an A4 instead of an A5 is 20% cheaper, right? But basically what it's saying is it's not worth it. In other articles that I read is that I found in New York that at even places like McCormick, Salt Bae, that they were lying and charging $350 for a Wagyu steak, and it was actually a cheap piece of steak, but nobody knew the difference, because like me and my wife saw when we were on our vegan journey, is that a vegan chef is saying, you don't taste the meat, you taste the seasoning, which is why a really good chef and a really good restaurant are able to sell you a cheap cut of beef and you think it's Wagyu, because you're not tasting the meat, you're tasting the chef and the way he prepares the steak and the seasoning. Now, this restaurant in New York, McCormick's, like the seasoning, they were selling so many fake steaks that they had legal trouble where the police came in. It's so prevalent that when you go to Roof Chris and when you go to Morton's and when you go to pay $350 for your steak, it's so prevalent that they're lying to you about the level of cut that you're receiving, that the police and the FDA and the feds had to get involved and regulate these restaurants, because they're lying to you on what you're purchasing. So all of you with your decadence, and I would imagine that Gucci and Christian Dior is doing the same thing. I would imagine that you would find, did you guys see that short where the Payless shoe store opened up a store and charged $1,500 for their shoes, and everybody bought the shoes? So I would speculate that in a couple years, we'll find out that Balenciaga and Christian Dior were made in the same warehouse as a $10 Nike shoe, and you were purchasing a $10 Nike shoe for $1,500. You're doing it, and why wouldn't you if you're going to purchase a $7 piece of steak for $350? Why wouldn't I sell you turf dirt for $350 if you're going to purchase a $10 slipper for $1,500 and kill each other over it? What's beef, ladies and gentlemen? That's the topic today. Like I said, you could extrapolate so much from today's topic, right? Why is Salt Bae so popular? Why has Wagyu beef been made so popular? I will say Wagyu beef was their Superman. They needed a God. They needed a superhero. As we talk about God, as we talk about religion, as we talk about the avocado, think about the avocado. When they made the avocado popular, how did they do it? What they do is they create a brand, just like with marijuana. So this is not just an avocado. No, this is a Hass avocado from Venezuela. Oh no, the avocado in particular was a California avocado that was grown on the side of a volcano. It had a special name. Hass avocados is what you buy in the store. So 80% of the avocados in the store are Hass variety avocados. And that specifically avocado had a brand name. That was their God. That was their Superman. Same thing with marijuana. This is not just marijuana. No, this is cookies. Oh, yeah, it smells like and it tastes like cookies. Yeah, your favorite cookies. What kind? Girl Scout cookies. Get the fuck out of here. No bullshit. Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies, right? So this is not normal marijuana. This is cookies. It's a brand name, so you have to give me more money. And then because I've championed cookies, I've created this allure. I've created this romantic thing around marijuana when marijuana was taboo. Now it's fashionable. You know what I said earlier? Now it's boutique. Wagyu is boutique red meat. So when you create boutique like Gucci, right? When you create a boutique item in marijuana and red meat, it creates this allure where everybody now, even if you can't afford the boutique, right? Even if you can't afford the cookies, even if you can't afford the Wagyu, you want to go out for steak for your birthday. Daddy, can you? I want to go for steak. Huh? We don't even eat ram, but you know, I want to go to Roof Chris. You want to go to Roof Chris? Everybody going to Roof Chris. Everybody going to, despite Chadwick Boseman, Wakanda Forever coming out tomorrow. Now, look how good God is. I did not know when I started doing this topic that Wakanda Forever is coming out tomorrow. I didn't even think about Chadwick Boseman. I've been so hyper-focused on Takeoff. But I didn't want to do a Takeoff episode, so I said, what can I do? God said, talk about all of the steak that you're seeing on YouTube. Why are you seeing so much steak on YouTube? So I said, God, that's a good idea. I went to Google, and then I said, God, did you know that everything I'm finding, every science, every report is saying steak is beneficial? I know better. I work in the medical field. God said to me, son, that's why I asked you to talk about it. Because you could directly go to Takeoff and everything that's happening when you look at why it is steak has been popularized, when you look at the Salt Bays, when you look at the restaurants, and when you understand why Wagyu has been championed, right? And why we see so many Wagyu shorts. Let's go to so I just showed you 3 reasons why you should never eat A5 Wagyu. And this is coming from not me. This is coming from the Wagyu sommelier. Now, you'll probably never actually get real A5 Wagyu. That's where it comes down to the very last reason is that you'll be pouring your money down the drain. You'll probably never get authentic A5 Wagyu, and you don't know how to prepare it. And if you did get authentic A5 Wagyu, don't forget reason number 1 you should never eat it. It's not steak. It's not steak. It's over 50% fat. So it cannot be considered steak. Where is it right here? The content increased to 41% and now may exceed 50%. So initially, this meat that the Japanese would eat, and not all the time, like for a celebration. Initially, the meat that the Japanese would eat, because these are Japanese cows, that's what Wagyu means, was 20% fat. Then when Americans got involved and they started marketing it like the avocado, they marketed it based off the fat content, the marbling. It was never about the taste because I just exposed the fact that the marbling has nothing to do with the taste. It was a marketing mechanism, and it's bad for your health. That's typically how capitalism in America works. They marketed Wagyu to you based on the look. It looks different than the steak you normally eat. They gave it a fancy name. They called it marbling. Does this sound like hip hop? Does this sound like gangster rap? Does this sound like the beef culture? Does this sound like Tupac and Biggie? Does this sound like East Coast and West Coast? It should. It should. It's meant to. So I know a lot of you were thinking that, no, Perfect, you're wrong. No, I'm telling you right now with an article, not just out of my ass. The fat content has nothing to do with the taste. They marketed it to you guys, just like those little pit bulls, the Brindle pit bulls for $25,000. So the meat looked different. So they said, what you're seeing is called marbling. Ooh, well, I want more. I want more because that's America. Our eyes are bigger than our stomach, capitalism. Okay, so marbling is good. I want more. So it went from 20% fat to 40% fat, and now it's over 50% fat. This means more than half of the diner eats in an A5 steak is fat. Ever heard someone say, Wagyu tastes nice, but I'm not a huge fan? The way it's served without considering the fat content is likely the reason. I'm going to read that again. Have you ever heard someone say, Wagyu tastes nice, but I'm not a huge fan? Doesn't that remind you of drill music, of the current status of hip hop? Wagyu tastes nice, but I'm not a huge fan. The way it's served without considering the fat content is likely the reason. The way hip hop is served to you without considering the content is likely the reason. God is so good, man. I'll be praying before my show, and I'm like, God, how am I gonna wrap this together? And God be like, just go live. I got you. I hope y'all heard the last thing I said, because sometimes I don't remember. The shit be so powerful. The shit be so powerful. I don't even remember because I know God is guiding me through this when I be on the microphone. What I just said is I linked today's topic back to hip hop and back to our current situation. I don't know how many content creators could do that. It says here, ever heard someone say Wagyu tastes nice, but I'm not a huge fan? Most black women say that about hip hop. The way it's served without considering the fat content is likely the reason. The way hip hop is presented to black women without considering the content is likely the reason. The way black women are treated and talked about in hip hop. I think a lot of black women like hip hop, love black men, like rap. But the way hip hop is presented to black women and to the black community without considering the content, the effect of the content. Woo, God is good. I'm in this building. The way that record companies and the Jewish people who run the record companies who only put out the Young Thugs present the Wagyu steak to black women in the black community makes it unpalatable because the content is not being considered. And people who make and curate content, who actually make content palatable for blacks, are not picked up by the Jewish people who run the record labels. So who is making us eat Wagyu beef? Who is telling you that Wagyu beef is good for you? Who is the people behind going on YouTube and not finding nothing? Because all of us are old enough to know and know about heart disease, and all of us are on this panel. Everybody in the room knows about the effects of red meat. We not young, we know about it. So why, if we all go research right now on YouTube and Google, we're gonna find everything telling us that we are idiots, that you are old and everything you taught was wrong. And even though your doctor wants you to get a colon cancer screening and heart disease, still eat Wagyu beef. still consume hip hop in the current way it comes to you. No matter if the content is conscientious of you as a black woman, no matter if the content respects you as a black woman, no matter if the content respects your black male son, you still should consume hip hop. Even though the hip hop and the music and the drill and the gangster rap and the music created is more than 50% fat. What do you mean, Perfect? Even though it's more than 50% negative and not actually the African rhythm chanting that was created and based upon the war dance, the rain dance, and why they outlawed singing and chanting in California during the pandemic when they said 0 people could go in churches. And I brought to you, I said, why did they outlaw chanting? This is why hip hop has been diluted and it's more than 50% fat. Hip hop right now is A5 Wagyu. Hip hop right now is A5 Wagyu. And you're actually, when you listen to rap music, when you listen to drill, you're not actually consuming hip hop. Anybody in the chat would say that ain't the music that we listen to, right? You're not consuming the chanting, the powerful music, the X-Clan, the music that made us stop wearing European brands, the music that created FUBU. FUBU, he went on to become a billionaire like Kanye West. The hip hop inspired us to do the Million Man March. The hip hop inspired us to get married. Now, that same music is now the soundtrack to our children's death. It has become death. It's a death chant. Drill music is a death chant. A5 Wagyu is death. It's telling you in this article, never eat A5 Wagyu. Your children should not be consuming drill music. Drill rappers should not be participating in drill rap. If I'm gonna be murdered for being a drill rapper and doing this type of content, I don't care about my Jewish record company owner. I don't want to do this kind of rap no more. I'm not doing this kind of rap no more. And as a people, we're not purchasing this kind of rap anymore. I don't eat A5 Wagyu because I don't eat pure fat, and I don't listen to this type of music because I'm conscientious of the content of what I'm putting in my body. Just like the A5 Wagyu goes in my mouth and I consume it, it goes in my body. The music goes in your body through your ears until your mind is consumed. It becomes part of you. Just like food, you digest the music. What's beef? No one can do what I do on this YouTube microphone. And all praises to God. Inshallah. Inshallah, man. All praises due. All praises due. All praises due. I gotta give it up. All praises due. I had a video because I want people to go get tested. I want people to go get tested. I got another article I want to bring up though. Thank you, Tracy. I love you, sis. Because this young man, I have a 20-year-old son. And I tell you, it's not easy. My son is dealing with some issues. It's not easy. It's not easy for these young men. We took away 2 years of their life. We took away their fathers. We haven't talked about what's happened to young men in America. You know, the young man in Texas, he went in and shot up that school. We never unpacked his pain. I said the whole police force got fired. We never unpacked his pain. Kanye West, we never unpacked his pain. Kyrie Irving, as he tried to talk to you, I could see pain on his face. You never thought to unpack his pain. You focused on the Jewish pain. The Holocaust didn't happen in America. And America, what happened in America is a Black Holocaust, and no one is speaking to our pain. I tell you, as a Black heterosexual Black male today, as descendants of the people who dealt with that pain, it's those ghosts are alive. Y'all waking up and y'all stirring up the ghosts. I think that's what they want. I think that's what they want. The ghost of Christmas past. The ghost of Christmas past. Black man got a present for your motherfucking ass. And we tired of kissing ass. We are tired of apologizing. We tired of being sorry. We tired of being left out. We tired of being unloved. And you know what? You know what the greatest thing happened for those unloved people is that God came to us and said, you can love yourself. This is why Black men are growing, and this is what progressiveness in this space would be. Talking about colon cancer, talking about the truth about red meat, its effects on Black men, why Black men need to get screened. Being conscientious of the content that we create and understanding that we should not be creating A5 Wagyu fatty content simply because it's marketable. We're creating A5 Wagyu fatty content simply because we want clicks. Talking about Just Pearly, the beef, all of this low level, low frequency shit. Challenge yourself. This article I have on the screen, it says, is red meat bad for you? It was very difficult to find an article in 2022 of the articles that I learned and I've seen growing up. Like I said, everything is leaning toward red meat and Wagyu actually being healthy. Like not only tastes good, but you will find doctors saying that red meat is healthy, that Wagyu is healthy, despite the lowering of the protocol. They saying there's no correlation, but I say there's a correlation in the lowering of the fucking protocol. You've lowered the protocol. That's a drastic change. So you're going to tell me that you're going to do new studies and that red meat is no longer bad for you and that Wagyu is actually healthy as you lower the protocols on the colon cancer, and you're not doing it to save Black lives. See, colon cancer has increased in women, in white women, and white men. So they're lowering the protocols to catch more white women and men at a younger age because the deaths are increasing because of the Western lifestyle. They didn't lower the protocols for Chadwick Boseman. Let's take a look at this article. There was a couple things. With steak, I want to read this. It says steak. Choose leaner cuts of steak, such as flank. Just for the record, for everybody listening, A5 Wagyu is the reason you get A5, A4 is the amount of marbling. Remember the last article where Wagyu started off as 20%, then it went to 40%. They started marketing it on the amount of marble, and that now you get over 50% of fat in a Wagyu steak, an A5 Wagyu, A4 or 40%. So what this article is saying that is something you should never eat, similar to the article I just presented to you, because what if you're consuming steak? Now remember what the elder Black Uru said to us, that if he's eating meat, he trims all the fat off the meat. If you eat steak, choose leaner cuts of steak, such as flank. That's not going to have any fat. It's not going to have any marbling, right? It's not going to have any fat. It's not going to have any marbling. The thing that but flank steak can taste very good. You see a lot of chefs preparing a flank steak sandwich. It became a very popular thing on how to prepare this cheaper cut of meat, because if prepared correctly, it could be very flavorful, right? And extremely healthy and a good source of protein. Because why? Because of the low fat content. The same thing back to hip hop. People could say hip hop is red meat. You could say the fact that visceral, young, masculine, macho men are the driving force behind hip hop. I give it to you. Hip hop is red meat. But if you say that red meat, when consumed and prepared properly, and the fat content is right, can be a source of protein, then I can say then you can link that to hip hop and the music that these young viral men who are trying to express themselves in their pain. That's the visceral effect that you get from hip hop when it's done correctly, right? It's like a flank steak. You know, I got some esoteric shit to say last too. Let me finish reading this. Flank steak, round sirloin, tenderloin, and ball tip. These cuts will usually have less calories and fat. What did I say, y'all? Less calories and less fat and more protein. Didn't I just say that, y'all? Less calories, less fat, more protein. This type of music we need to make. We need to look at the music and the content that we're creating, not only visually, sonically, and see the caloric content. Look at the fat content, look at and see if it's got protein. And we can say the same thing about the black manosphere and about YouTube and the black male content creators. Are you creating A5 Wagyu? Are you actually concerned about your content? Does your content have a good caloric balance? Is it balanced, man? You feel what I'm saying? Is you presenting some protein to the audience? Are you providing the audience with something healthy that they could digest and take with them, right? Is that actually even a fucking concern of yours as a content creator? Because I'm telling you, in the state that we're in right now, it should be. So let me tell you something else. I don't know if I got the article up, but on some spookism, esoteric shit, right? I got another video. I got something I want to share with you on some spookism, esoteric shit as I did my research. So I'm gonna play this. This is red meat linked to stuff, and then I'm gonna give my esoteric thing.
High red meat consumption is now linked to specific patterns of DNA damage in colorectal cancer tumors, according to new research led by Dana-Farber Cancer Institute.
Just, I think, another piece in the puzzle that further supports a possible link between a dietary lifestyle behavior, namely red meat consumption, and a colorectal cancer.
Dr. Marios Giannakis led the study where they discovered a mutational signature in the colon cancer tumor DNA that had not previously been identified. The signature indicated DNA damage called alkylating damage.
So patients that before their diagnosis were consuming high amounts of red meat and individually processed red meat or unprocessed red meat had tumors that were enriched in this damage.
The study, published in Cancer Discovery, sequenced tumors from 900 patients with colorectal cancer. The patients were part of a much larger group who participated in years-long studies that included lifestyle surveys documented long before a cancer developed. The alkylating damage was associated with the top 10% of red meat consumers who ate about 150 grams of red meat each day. That's more than 2 servings a day.
It's very plausible that other factors that are yet unidentified are contributing to the signature. But there is a plausible hypothesis because we know red meat contains compounds in it that can cause this specific type of damage, alkylating damage.
Dr. Giannakis says scientists are hard at work with additional research, specifically to see what else might contribute to the alkylating damage and if there's any way to repair this damage. In the meantime, a healthy, balanced diet is the best way to go.
That's very damning, isn't it? That's very damning, isn't it? So you know how we do on YouTube. We got to present the receipts, right? So that I just wanted to present that the link, the causation, because I know you can find videos to disagree. I'm not gonna say debunk. They will say debunk, but I don't. The science is not done. Science is never done. But you can find videos of actual doctors. I believe they've been paid similar to the avocado studies that were done. And everything in that Netflix video about food and how foods are marketed, like the California raisins and avocado, if everything you find now is contrary to what I just played, that there is a linkage and a causation between red meat, colon cancer, and we know between fatty meats, processed meats, and heart disease. It's the biggest thing we know about heart disease as Black people with high blood pressure, heart disease in our family, which is also epigenetic. If you had colon cancer in your family, you should get tested even earlier. And hopefully people listening share this with the people in your family and say, hey, have you gotten your colon screening? Did you know they changed the protocol? If they say, no, I don't got to get it yet, because a lot of people may think it's still 50 to 60, they actually changed the protocol. Remind them of Chadwick Boseman. Remind them that Black Panther Part 2 comes out tomorrow. I'm not supporting it. I'm not watching it. I'm not a proponent of Disney. But Chadwick Boseman is gone. He died from colon cancer. He kept it a secret. A lot of Black men suffering are not because of your diet and your health. It's because of the lack of access to health care. A lot of Black women are suffering because the way Black women are seen in healthcare is not feeling pain. The way Black heredity lacks it, the way Blacks are treated in healthcare. So a lot of people will come to you and say, it's your fault that you died from colon cancer. You know what the biggest factor is a lack of a good relationship with your doctor. Your doctor should be pushing this. Your doctor should be having conversation with you. You pay health insurance every month. It's something you're paying for. I don't think we understand it as a product, a commodity that you purchase, that you should receive something in return, because you're so afraid to go to the doctor. You are so afraid to go to the dentist. You never get a return on your investment. So lastly, before I get out of here, man, on the esoteric level, as I did my research, I found something that was kind of scary. Not scary, but I found something that kind of took me back in my research. And as I was studying red meat and the effects of red meat, one of the things I found is that when somebody was explaining what is red meat, and they said, well, and I thought about it's funny because I thought about the elder, Black Uru, right? And how he says mammalian female, right? And and the one thing that stood out to me about my research about red meat is that it's mammal flesh. And I was like, wow, this hit me deep. Now, you know, sometimes you guys, I could go deep, right? And I think I did today, because I pray and God moves us and God moves me, right? So as I thought about, and there's a lot of content creators with this recent thing about Kyrie Irving in this book, and they're studying and researching the history of the world, right? And you got Jeffrey Dahmer, right? And you have everything that happened and over the year with all of that stuff that came out about Hillary Clinton and all that. So I thought about all of that stuff and things we can't even really talk about, right? And what I read in that article is that red meat and steak is mammal flesh. I'm gonna say it again. I'm just letting it marinate out there for a minute so it can hit you the way it hit me. Red meat steak is mammal flesh. I didn't know that. How many people, put a 5 in the chat if you knew and understood that red meat and steak is mammal flesh? Now think about the bull Think about the story that we know about the papal bull and how and the bull on Wall Street and how they would put the people inside the bull and roast the human flesh in the bull. Y'all remember those stories, right? Y'all remember Jeffrey Dahmer, right? So as I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about everything that's coming out, Hebrews to Negroes and chattel slavery and all of the true history that's been hidden, and I'm thinking about why red meat has been popularized, why it was introduced in our diet, because it's not an indigenous meat. It's not something that we ate, not in Africa, not in America. And it's both the same people. They're both melanated people are the same. Everybody is the same. There's black people all over the earth. There's melanated people all over the earth, but it wasn't a meat that we consumed. So I had to think about who introduced this flesh. What's up, Big Daddy Beard Gaming in the building? Who introduced this meat? Why was it introduced? And think about the history of the people who eat this meat and introduce this meat into our diet. And ever since this meat was introduced into our diet, we've developed the diseases that they die from. We don't really die from these diseases. There's a book I told you about called The China Study, and why Western societies die from cancers more than the East. The East live longer. They die from different things. They don't contract colon cancer, heart disease, because they don't have a meat-rich diet. This is the one thing that they won't tell you. That I know some other things I'm not sharing with you about meat, which is during my vegan journey that I learned. But this book called The China Study, and I've looked at Eastern diets versus Western diets, where they don't eat red meat at all. They eat very little flesh. Because it's a luxury, because it's a poor society. They fish for a living, so they don't even eat the fish that they catch. They have to sell a fish that they catch, which is why you have fish broths. You have ramen, because the ramen is made from the fish bones, the fish guts, what's left over that I can't sell. Everything that I can't sell, I'm going to boil and make a broth. And then my wife, with shrubs and the earth, because flour and everything to make the noodles comes from the earth. The flour, the eggs comes from my garden. So my wife can make noodles out of nothing, and I make the broth out of nothing. And the grubs or vegetables, as you know them, come from my garden, and that's what my family eats. The grubs from my garden. This is what the slaves, we didn't eat pork and shit. So the China Study talks about why Chinese don't die from cancers. It's because the lack of red meat. Not that they wouldn't eat red meat, it's just they don't have it. And that was true for melanated people. And when the non-melanated people introduce mammal flesh, I love saying it that way because that doesn't get me in trouble. I love saying it that way because that way I can't get in trouble. But you know what I'm implying. Doom, doom, doom. You know what I'm implying when those individuals introduced mammal flesh into the melanated people's diet. It created sickness, cancer. Woo! Dr. Sebi is in the building. I feel Dr. Sebi's spirit moving through here because I'm like, did Dr. Sebi ever live? The cow is sacred in Africa. We don't touch the cow. Did you guys know that about the Zulu? I did. I studied the Zulu. The cow is sacred. I did a story, shout out to Truth, who was in the building about the sacred cows in the manosphere. The cow is sacred. We don't eat and consume the cow. Mad cow disease. It's mammal flesh. Black Uru the Elder said, women are mammalian females. People are saying, what's the difference between a man and a womb man? What's the difference between a man and a womb man? How do you define a womb man? It's in the fucking word. It's in the word. A womb man has a womb. breasts that lactate and produce milk, that the baby birth from the moon will breastfeed and drink from, lactate from, right? That's a womb, man. A man doesn't have a womb, doesn't have breasts. It won't lactate. So one is a man, one is a womb man. Was that hard? Was that hard, everybody? Because a lot of people, I think, been struggling with it in this space. Because people been making fun of the girl for not being able to define a woman, but no one's defined a woman. Well, it's in the actual word. If we understand our etymology, the etymon, and we understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, a womb man has a womb. Female mammal. Red meat is mammal flesh. Why are we eating mammal flesh? If you had a choice on what to consume and knowing that it causes you cancer, which makes sense because you probably shouldn't be eating, but I'm not going to go down that path. But it makes sense why you get mad cow disease, why it causes you cancers. It's mammal flesh. You are a mammal, which is why it has so many proteins in it that actually that the people that mysteriously market the shit tell you that your body needs, because it's already in my body, because I'm mammal flesh. If you cut me up, do I have marbling with my fat black ass? If you cut me up, can you serve me in Dubai and call me Wagyu? If you season me properly, cause Jeffrey Dahmer had some nigger dicks in his refrigerator eating them like motherfucking beef jerky. And nobody understood until I read that what Jeffrey Dahmer actually had in his refrigerator was mammal flesh.